Everything's great. Nice to meet you.
Uh,
Where are you located?
I'm sorry, I'm just playing around with the video.
Oh, you're
I'm in,
fine. Yeah, I was
I'm
trying
in
to figure mine
Sydney.
out too.
Yeah, yeah. I am in Sydney,
Oh, good.
and yeah, yeah. It's what 11:30 at night on a Tuesday evening.
Okay, all right. Well, I love the future, so I always love these calls. I get to see what's
Yeah,
going on, you know?
yeah. It's just dark and cold here. That's all.
Well, it's bright and sunny here in Kansas City. We're at 8:30 in the morning, so it's great to convene. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Oh man, pleasure, pleasure. I love what you do.
Thank
Uh,
you. I love
yeah,
what you're doing too. And I'd
yeah.
like to begin before we get into your world by knowing, 4 years ago, the COVID response was different around the world. I know
Mm,
Australia was
mm,
a little different from other places.
yeah.
How did you ultimately get through that time period, and how did it
Mm.
influence and change the way that you live your life now?
Yeah, I've tried to block it out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get it.
Damn it. I'm getting PTSD here a little bit. Because I had multiple lockdowns because I moved countries and went through what's called managed MIQ, managed isolation through 2 weeks in a hotel. So I moved for a job from Sydney to Auckland, which is a 3.5 hour flight, but it took me 15 days
Yeah.
because you landed there 2 weeks in a hotel with three young kids and my wife. And initially, I was going to go over by myself, but I went over with the whole family. And my little guy even turned 3 in isolation, so I had a little birthday party. Um, the lockdowns in Sydney were pretty tough, and then we went to Auckland, and I worked remotely for the job for 3 months before I could move over, and then the day I arrived into Auckland, they went into lockdown in New Zealand because New Zealand was supposed to be this little island. It was so we're all going, we're going to be free kids, we're going there. So I just moved countries to go into another lockdown, which was just hideously terrible. So I got a little bit scarred with that. But I was fortunate enough to be able to rent a place by the beach when I moved to New Zealand. And we could go on beach walks and stuff, and that was just pretty cool. So that was that was quite nice. But when they finally set us free, it was like it was a pretty decent party, I'll tell you. It was
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It was a time to celebrate. Yeah, I think
yeah.
sometimes I think we're so close to it we haven't pulled away enough to really realize what it was all about and
Mm,
the ramifications that are going to last. But the
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so let's get to the heart and soul of exactly what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put
Mm,
you in front of a bunch of
sure.
third graders. It's career
Yeah,
day, and one of the
yeah.
kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What's your answer?
Yeah, I work with companies to help them do good.
So, what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Oh, the astronaut.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
because I
So
became a scuba diver instead. That was the closest I could do. But yeah.
So let's get into that
Mm,
timeline there. Take me
mm,
back to where you were
yeah,
born and raised, and how did these
yeah,
seeds get planted into you to have this business acumen to help businesses get
yeah,
to a better
yeah,
place? How did that happen?
yeah. So very multicultural upbringing. I was born in a small state called Brunei in Southeast Asia. My dad was a voluntary teacher and met my mum and had me over there. So I'm part Malaysian, part Iban, part Scottish, Irish, Kiwi sort of mix, Pakeha they call it. Dad was from New Zealand. And I had my early childhood in Singapore where it was fascinating, where you had 30 kids in a classroom and all 20 different nationalities, and it just all happened. It just all got on, right? It was great. It was so fantastic. Then I got thrown into New Zealand, into well, I'm not sure the grade, about 7 or 8 years old, 7 years old, and I was the first Eurasian kid that's seen. I wasn't white, I wasn't Maori, and I was in between, so it was pretty harsh and they were pretty brutal. I had some little scars from some of the things they called you and stuff, and got me got a bit of tough skin around all that. Um, but was so fortunate enough to grow up in New Zealand where I had such appreciation of the outdoors. And my dad was quite of an environmentalist. He used to love animals and nature and so forth. And I had a cousin's farm in the South Island where I'd go to and just spent time outdoors, fishing and hiking and sleeping outside in tents and under the stars and stuff. And it was just so beautiful to see. And I do ask you, if you ever get to New Zealand, you drive an hour in every direction. You go to mountains, you got ocean, you've got rivers. It's a pretty cool spot, and I do miss it dearly. So I had this lovely upbringing in New Zealand on the east coast of the North Island called Hawke's Bay. Sport was also a big part of my life. Cricket and hockey are two things I play, and golf. Still manage to play a bit of golf now, and that's brought me really close friends and lifetime friends and so forth. So yeah, I had when I look back, it wasn't roses, money was tight growing up and things. Dad being a school teacher, but appreciation of outdoors nature was sort of that grounding I had, mainly from my father, actually. Yeah,
So, how did business become the path for you? How
yeah,
did you decide
yeah,
this was where you wanted to go with your life?
yeah. So I suppose I really struggled to get my first job after university. It took me about 50 to 60 job applications. In the end, I just forced my way into the door with one application and managed to, they said jokingly they gave me the job because they didn't think I'd go away. So I got involved in telcos of all things in the mid 90s, 1990s, and looked at technology was sort of been a part of that. So I got involved in that. I did really well in that role, and they transferred me to Sydney, where I managed to change jobs and worked in financial markets, started earning some reasonably good money for a young 20 odd year old. And then, like most Kiwis and Aussies, could go to London for a few years on a visa. So I went to London. I helped set up a um, online training system for a qualification provider. So I did a lot of e-learning. And then when I came back and I moved back to Sydney, I sort of thought, well, what can I do with my job to help? So something was nagging at me. It wasn't just all about money. It was about what can I do? The purpose was sort of grinding away a little bit, as a late 20-year-old and 30-year-old thinking there's something, I need to do something good with that. And so I used my skills in developing e-learning and set up a startup that created online training around sustainability and helping corporates understand the role that they could play. It's been an up and down career over 20 years, but I've always stayed in that sort of uh, nexus between business and environment, sustainability, technical science, and that translator role, and how do that benefit business. Um, Very much enjoy. I've always had good jobs, and through that way, and that's been quite cornerstone. Making money and being financially secure has been quite important, obviously. But how can I use that skill to help the businesses do better while also staying profitable? And that's sort of where I've really focused and honed my skills over the last 20 years is looking at the opportunity of doing good, can create a new market, attract new talent, attract new customers, have better conversations. So that's sort of where I've really honed in and saw the opportunity.
The beauty of longevity is that you see something, things happen that are positive over your career. And over 20
Yeah.
years, what have you seen in business that's been encouraging or evolutionary that's given you confidence that things are heading in the right direction?
I've seen a lot of false starts, unfortunately. But but over time, the trajectory of sustainability, even though I go to a conference now and they're saying the same things 20 years ago, instead of 20 people at a conference, there's 2,000. There's 200. There's more people having a conversation, although I think the conversation needs to progress much quicker. There's more people knowing about it, aware, getting involved, and I roll my eyes up when some of my colleagues have been in this industry a while. Oh, there's another passionate guy who's coming to his end of career, wants to do good. That's actually quite a good thing if we can channel it in the right way. So there's more awareness, more focus, and more need to do things. And governments and regulation are playing a role too, as well. And that's driving change. I do think it needs to happen faster. But what does give me that hope is that the sheer number of people involved and the interest levels is really exponentially increased, even in the last 3 or 4 years.
The one thing about business too is that it kind of mirrors sports. There's this rise to, rags to riches. There's all of these like spikes that we always admire, from Apple to Amazon to all these companies. What business model exists out there that you admire the most, that you find emblematic of the way that you like to do business?
Yeah, I do like things like the B Corp movement, the certification of beyond profit, what the business stands for. So I look for businesses that aren't just, hey, we made X million of dollars, or we offered this share, dividends and shares and so forth. I think it needs to be beyond just profit, and the non-financial reporting and disclosure is what I really look at. So yeah, looking at the business model today of those that are looking long term outside the normal business cycle of 3 to 5 year planning. And when I was working at Fujitsu, they had a 100 year sort of vision. And within 100 years was to still have a biodiversity target, sustainability target. And that Fujitsu company had been going for over 100 years and had another 100 year vision. It's those sort of long-term visions of what they want to do is really key. So you and I would look at a business and a report and go, here's, and they do the 3 year strategy planning. I like those companies that think 30 years, the next generation, what they're going to do, what's their mark they're going to leave, how are they going to make the world, society a better place through their business activities. So that's what I really like to see.
So, who's been a hero for you, an inspiration in your career?
Yeah, oh look, there's some early ones of Paul Polman at Unilever was quite good. Unilever come sort of not doing that great at the moment. I do like what Patagonia's done in the past. Um, for me, Al Gore has been quite instrumental in my career. I met him in 2010, was a trained climate reality leader, and done about 100 of those talks at conferences and so forth, and leveraging his expertise, and I'm being a mentor to hundreds of students going through his program. So he was, yeah, it's quite a great orator and motivator and speaking about the issue, very forthright and so forth. So he's been quite a strong influence as well.
He had a network called Current TV, and I did some corresponding for it.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, it
Yeah.
lasted, I think, for about, I think it was around for about 7 or 8 years. But that's the
Yeah.
thing about him. He's so diversified. There were so many things
Mm.
that he kind of had his hand
Yeah.
on after
Yeah.
everything happened. Because after that election, he could have just
Yeah.
totally gone away. It could have
Yeah.
been, you know,
Mm.
it
Yeah.
was too much, but he's always persevered and been good about that. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
let me ask you this. If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, who would it be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Oh, geez, it's a real tough one. I do like Obama.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just seeing him speak, not live, I never saw live, but just the way he speaks. I think it'd be love to just maybe have a round of golf with him one day. Would be quite nice.
Yeah,
I thought.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree. So
Mm.
let me ask you this. You dispense good advice and good strategies for business minds out there to grab onto and to make their lives better. What's the best advice that you've ever gotten?
Keep it simple. Just don't use the jargon. If you have to spend a lot of time explaining, you're losing. I think just keep it simple. That's the main thing I learned.
Yeah.
The hard way
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you break it down, say, why did that board meeting go totally pear shaped? Oh, I got stuck in jargon and stuff, and they just didn't know what you're talking about. So just
Yes.
simplify it. Yeah,
I dig it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
what is it every day that gets you up to do this work? Because you have to give a lot of yourself to help others get to a
yeah.
better place, but you also have to evolve as not only a person, but as a businessman. What is that
Yeah.
collective gas in your tank?
Yeah, it's and trust me, Joe, it's gone empty quite a few times. Definitely. But the objective is, we can't fail. It's not really an option. We have to do more. Everyone could do more. Everyone could do better. And when I left my last job, when I talked about when I went to New Zealand, the gas was empty. I'd totally burnt out, and I said to myself, "Shit, I gave it all for this job, and here I am." You know, on that sort of person, I felt a failure. And it was really hard. But I sort of said, "Well, shit, I've got a story to tell here. No one's got the experience I've got, and that really drove me to write the book and to get the mind space to do that because it's kind of like proving I can salvage something from my career at that time to do good. And how do I make a bigger impact than just me talking one on one to customers? How can I help hundreds, maybe thousands of people with that and just help them guide them a little bit by keeping it totally simple and using the book as a medium to helping companies just do better.
So, what's been one of the best reviews or fan letters you've gotten from your book so far?
Yeah, look, I've got look, the book is just being published at the moment, so I've got 20 reviews. So I've got 13 very close friends and people who've given me great quotes. So I could just read one out here. James Shaw was the previous climate change minister for New Zealand. So he just said, look, I wish I had written this book 25 years ago when I was a budding young sustainability manager in a large corporate. It would have saved us a lot of wasted effort to have this totally comprehensive and yet tightly written how-to guide on hand rather than make it up as we did. And that's someone who, yeah, he read my book in about 3 hours and said, my God, it's got everything in there.
Yeah.
Um, so and that was what I was trying to do, trying to the art for me was trying to say as much as you can with as less words.
Yeah.
That's
Beautiful.
the that's the art. And this book, although I'm holding it up now, is quite small. It started on 60 to 80,000 words. I've got it down to 33,
Yeah.
and it hurt. but 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 it's there, and I wrote it for the clients I was working with at the time who's new to the subject, who were going, oh my God, how do we tackle this, Lee? It's so complicated. I said, it's actually not.
Yeah.
Just we've got to work on three things. And what's your confidence? What do you need to know? So these are big global macro issues of, say, climate change, modern slavery, waste. And now you've got your confidence. That's the basics. You've got to keep topping it up every now and then, but keeping abreast of news and stuff. Now you've got to make a commitment. Now, what do you stand for? There's thousands of issues you could look at, but how do you hone it down to three or four that's relevant to your business?
Yeah.
And how are you actually going to make it consistent? And that's the governance side of things. So I just called it the simplest framework out there. It's three C's,
Yeah.
you know, confidence, commitment, consistency. And at the end of the book, I throw in the other one a little bit. You're going to need a bit of courage
Yeah.
because if something goes wrong a little bit, there are people going to say throw the whole thing out.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. But I don't know a business strategy that's got 100% to plan ever. So
Yeah.
you just got to be adaptive and work through it.
So, Lee, when you look at your career and your life at this point, what are you the proudest of?
My three kids. Yeah, they're 6, 12 and 14. They've been through a bit of turmoil, moving countries and so forth, but I'm proud of them when I just see them play on a sports field or get outside and play and get covered in mud and
Yeah.
stuff. I just love it. That's the joy that I think, and then I think I'll be judged by them when they're my age, but I think hopefully they look back and say, oh yeah, I think Dad did a good thing.
So, as the man behind the strategy, as the man behind helping people get to a better place, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Yeah, I'm just a loyal, committed, and down to earth, and someone who's been criticized for it, but actually quite proud of it. I wear my heart on my sleeve, so to speak. There's no BS. It's what it is. And you're a friend of mine. You've been, I'm looking forward to the book launches I'm having. I've got friends I've been for 20 years coming along to various launches I'm having in various places across Australia and New Zealand. And yeah, I generally think they think highly of me, but yeah, I just no nonsense, practical,
So,
down to earth guy.
speaking,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. So, speaking of launch, if
Mm,
anyone wants to pick up the book, if anyone wants to
yeah.
reach out, learn more about what you're doing, any of the
Yeah.
good business, where do they go?
Yeah, they could check me out on LinkedIn, just Lee Stewart, Leestewart is the best way to do it. Or my website is esgstrategy.com.au.
Excellent. Lee, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your logic.
Oh,
Thank you for your passion. And keep doing the great work, man.
excellent. Thanks so much, Joe. Pleasure to
Thank
be
you.
here.
Thank you. Great to meet you. Take care.